Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Joel Madden, and this is Artist Friendly. On this episode, I'll be talking to New York Times bestselling author Jedidiah Jenkins about his new book, Mother Nature. We're talking about the book, our friendship, life, and much more. Let's go.
I don't want no bad times. I don't want to have bad.
Jed.
Yes, hi.
Jedidiah.
What a privilege.
Jedidiah. Okay, so you're a writer, and we're going to talk about your books, but we'll get to that.
Perfect.
That is the most important part, but also the least important part.
Who cares? What are you talking about?
Right?
Anything.
I don't even know where to start.
Our lives have too many angles.
We're very interconnected.
I know.
We're connected through Nicole.
Mm-hmm.
We're connected through a bunch of friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we've become friends over the years. Was I friendly when we first met?
Of course, but you protect your energy is what I would say. I explode my energy in every direction, and you are like, where can I spend it, and who am I spending it on? You've never ever been anything but an angel, but you're not like song and dance, like let's do a show. You're like doing your thing, and Nicole very much sells you that way. You know,
she's like, just so you know,
which is so fun because, like, I used to call it a reward friend, like someone who doesn't give it to you right away. You got to earn it. Like
that
I will
is
tell
me.
you,
I got to tell you, that is me. It does take time with me.
Yeah, there's like a scarcity to energy, and I will tell you, the highlight of my year was when your son said, "I want Jed to come over and play cards."
Yeah, he loves you.
I am so intimidated by anyone that's under 15.
Yeah.
And he is so selective with his words and his energy.
Yeah. Like me times 100.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's like, can Jed come over and play Egyptian rat screw? When I got that text, it was like Barack Obama called me into the office. I was like, this is my moment.
That's how it feels when he...
And I don't like children. I want them nowhere near me. But when I'm chosen by a hard-won child...
Yeah.
Then I believe that our species is worth it.
He doesn't fake it.
No.
So it is cool. He loves you, and he loves playing that game.
I love him.
But it does take time, right?
For those that don't know what Egyptian rat screw is, it is a card game where you have to it's very fast paced and you have to slap doubles in sandwiches. Google it. It's very fun to play with your family, and it gets like grandma rowdy. So
it does get everyone
rowdy. It's very fun.
And Nicole now loves that's her party trick.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Yeah, she brings a deck of cards to any party, and she's like, "Do you want to learn a game?"
Because you can learn it in 10 seconds. It's not even but you can get good at it. Nicole is very good at it.
And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's great. You yell, you slap. It's a lot of fun.
Okay, what's next?
I was just thinking about where to start with you, because I know a little bit about your... I know, I've obviously we've talked about your life, but I've heard a lot about how Nicole always says, like, you guys, your upbringing was so similar. If we were in an elevator, we had 30 floors to get to, and I was a stranger who said, "Oh, you write books. Tell me about your book. What is could you sum this book up?"
Did you hit the 30th floor, or did you push every button?
But pushed every other button.
Okay. It's about my mom is a conservative, Trump-supporting, evangelical, Jesus-loving, Bible-adoring Southern woman.
Okay.
I am a California coastal elite, liberal trash, snowflake, gay writer. Okay. And so
Is this how you feel the world sees the both of you, or is this a funny way of explaining who you both are?
Both.
And kind of true.
It's the stereotypes that are all true.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a snowflake, but I'm very not sensitive. But we are just very different people.
Right.
And yet we love each other very, very much. And I see in a world that becomes progressively more polarized but it's just, everything is such a binary. If you're not with me, you're against me. If you're not safe, you're dangerous. If you're not good, you're evil. And there's an obsession with group clarification of are you one of us or are you not? Are you dangerous?
You with us or you against us?
Yeah, and I find that the election of Donald Trump clarified this country, and a lot of families split apart. I know a lot of people who stopped talking to family members.
Yeah, it was a tough time.
From just the clarity of did you or did you not vote for this person?
Right.
Because I always was like, okay, well, if you're queer and you grow up in a religious household, a lot of queer kids have falling outs with their family over religion. That's like something normal in the queer community.
Right.
But then I noticed what felt not normal or new was that like political divides were causing families to rip apart in a way that it felt new. Mm-hmm. And just like observing, this is a weird thing about reaching the fourth floor, which is what I call your 40s, is that like you've lived long enough to really like see the patterns, like see that, oh, it was different in the 90s than it is now. Like things get worse or better. They don't just get better. They don't just, it's like
in some ways they
change.
get worse. In some ways you could say they get better. It's interesting. In some ways you could say we've come a long way. And in other ways you could say we've digressed in some ways.
100%. And it's weird to be old enough to actually have seen that in my own life and not just read about it in a book. But I've just seen that. Sorry, we must be on like the 27th floor. And so
no, it's a slow elevator. And I love how I love how you explain things. It's really interesting. I had Cleo Wade on here, and listening to a writer speak, you do have a way of like writing while you talk.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just how
she's
your brain...
amazing. We both communication is our job and into words. So we're both like extroverted people. She protects her energy more than I do, but like
you're funny.
Whatever. So I would say I observed that, and then people in my life would see my relationship with my mom because we have a very fun time together and we love each other and we talk all the time. Yeah. And they would say, how do you do that? I can't do that.
And the name Mother Nature, it feels like a play on words with your mother and nature and nature nurture and all of the complex mother relationships you have. We all have a relationship with our mom, some better than others, some more affectionate than others, but absolutely all the parent-child relationship is complex no matter who you are.
No matter who.
Right.
Even like in a world where you don't have a mother, you were abandoned, you were this or that, you were in the foster system, that relationship still has to be accounted for.
Well, it still is. You were born to someone that is your mother, regardless of it, whether they claimed you. Mm-hmm. No matter what the relationship is, you have to reconcile your relationship with your mother and your father.
I was reading this review in the New Yorker of this random like Russian something. And the guy said, and this is in the first quote in the book, I just read this in an article and I was like, well, this is everything. This rupture between parents and their children is what happens over and over with every new generation. There is nothing for it, no remedy, no answer. Who is right? They're both right, and they're both wrong, and neither will ever understand the other. And I was just like, that is, because every generation, my mom had this huge rift with her mother, but the rift there was that her mother never told her she loved her. She was so hard on her. So what's interesting is that my mom can't accept my sexuality, but she has told me she loved me unconditionally every day of my life. I grew up, both of my parents telling me they loved me. And I found out when my grandparents died that my dad's dad and my mom's mom never told them they loved them ever. And both of my parents have told me every day of my life they love me. So there's progress, but then right when you think you've made progress as a generation, the next generation is on to something else. Like, well, I like butt sex. And you're like, oh no, like that's not in the Bible. Or it is, but.
So is there any part of you, I'm sure you've been asked this before by maybe some of your friends who are maybe more rigid in their stance on people and what they accept, what they don't accept, what they get to choose, what they accept about people and what they don't accept. Is there any part of you that ever has felt like or feels like, well, no, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't pick what you love about me and what you won't, what you deny about me. And I say that in knowing where you come from.
Yeah.
And you come from the South, and I come from a place that is very Southern in its nature. And so I understand people who don't understand what it means to be gay. I understand.
Yeah.
I know those people. And I'm not saying I agree with their stance, but it is almost like a part of their cells.
I know.
They can't understand, and so it is big for them to accept it.
Why. So the two part of your question is because like my sexuality is so core to my identity, and I fought it for so long,
right?
And so there comes a point where I understand when people are like, if you can't accept my sexuality, I cannot accept you in my life. I feel uncared for and unsafe.
That's kind of what because I know people like that too. I've
totally
friends who have had to have that conversation with their family.
Yeah.
And I understand them having that conversation, but there isn't a line. It isn't black and white. Like when I talk to you, I also understand you love your mom.
Yeah, I mean, this is the equation, the calculus that everybody has to do when there's a strong boundary.
Right.
Is I could draw that line, but I think I built a life for myself. I built my own safety and my own adulthood, and I built a chosen family of which you're a part, of like people that support and love me.
Of course.
And that gave me the strength to stand and love her in a way that does not hurt me.
Right, like you meet her where she's at, but you also understand the parts of her that might hurt you, and you organize around those parts. It's charity in some ways because I believe one day she'll understand what it means for you to love her.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we're positioned with our parents like they've done us this great service of bringing us into the world. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I was raised old school. Your elders,
you
say yes, sir, no, ma'am. You respect your elders. As adults, though, now once we get to a certain place, now I'll always have respect for my elders, but I will always accept what they do, what they say. But now how I approach a disagreement or something that I don't like that they're doing is with respect, with love, but with boundaries.
Yeah.
And armed with my perspective and information that I have. And kind of, I think there is what I see you doing, it feels to me like very similar to like my background.
Yeah.
So the way we have to organize around our differences with our parents and older people in our life I would say that come from a different time.
Yeah.
I think it's also informed us how to deal with the current world because there's so many people, like you said, that draw lines and separate and clarify from each other. Mm-hmm. I'm not like, fuck you. That's not how I feel. It's just not how I feel. But I am like, no, let's experience one another. Let's relate to one another. And I guarantee if you relate to me, you'll understand my perspective and you'll understand why I'm in the position I'm in. And then I'll relate to you as well. And I'll have some empathy for where you're at. I say it all the time. I really think in our real lived life and our lived experience, we relate to the people around us no matter what. Mm-hmm. Because we're building a relationship with our environment.
Well, they say that empathy, the equation for empathy, distance in time, distance on earth, and then likeness to self. So the more or the closer those things are, the more empathy you have. So if it is a person who looks like you that lives on your street in your cul-de-sac, right now, you have maximum empathy for them.
Wow.
If it is a person that looks completely different than you from a different language and a different culture that lived 10,000 years ago on the other side of the earth, you have much less empathy because you don't feel that.
Right.
You're like, I'm sure that was a human, but what do we have in common? Literally nothing. And so that explains a lot of when horrible things happen on the other side of the planet and like Western countries don't react the same they would if there was a terrorist attack in Paris. That equation is in play, and most people don't think about that. And
Honestly, I've never heard that before, and I love it. So it's distance
in place, meaning on the planet, distance in time, meaning is it now, and likeness to self.
Wow.
And so what I'm saying is the only thing you can really change, through travel, you can change distance in space. So if you go to Thailand and spend time there, you really connect with people, and now you have a profound feeling for them. It's also moving outside of the zone that you're in you can expand likeness to self. And I consider myself like a bridge builder because I was raised in a conservative Christian private school in the South in Tennessee. and had that horrible experience that queer people have where around 7th grade you realize you're different and the difference gets you made fun of. And can you hide it? Can I change my voice? Can I change my mannerisms so that I don't feel scared?
Did you try?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And the thing is, and this is where gay kids separate. Some kids are so fabulous that they can't hide it.
Right. It's harder.
And they're bullied and they just create a clique or whatever with other kids like that. And that's the kids of last resort.
Right.
And God bless, they discover a totally different life than me where I was able to just completely, mostly hide. And then
How did you do that?
I realized that I was funny.
Right. You are funny.
And in 7th grade. And so I said, if I can make the jocks and the cheerleaders laugh and like me, I'm safe.
Right.
Now, this is not like something I wrote on a dry erase board.
No, you
It's
just
something
instinctively,
I felt.
yeah, it's instinct.
And so I just decided to do that. And I joined every club. I was student body president. I ran everything. I did. And it worked. Like I made friends with these people. I made them laugh.
And at the time, your mom probably loved it.
I mean, our house was the social epicenter of Middle Tennessee. And, you know, I would be in the musical and the entire front row was the football team.
Right.
Cheering for me. It
Yeah.
was like very sweet. But I look back and I realize, oh, that was a defense mechanism. Like I was insulating my life from being scared of that very moment in 7th grade where I realized I'm in trouble.
Wow.
And there's something different about me that's dangerous.
What's 7th grade? Is that 12, 13?
Yeah.
Right. That's tough.
Yeah. This is getting back to your point of like, I don't say fuck you. I say, how can I expand likeness to self? So in my experience of befriending all those straight jocks, and then I came out to them senior year of high school, all of the scariest straight people you've ever met were like instantly my number one advocate.
Right.
And they're like, you're going to move to California and come back with a husband. You know, they were like so excited for me because they loved me.
Right.
And that all it took was just giving them a personal story and an experience with a gay person that they loved that changed their life. And I think so much of the people who don't understand sexuality or don't understand the differentness is they don't have personal emotional experience with it.
Right.
So it doesn't humanize.
When you say that, I think my first thought is that's unfair. My second thought is, well, if we take fair out of it, right? Because it's just not fair.
Yeah.
That you have to do that.
I'm 5'10". I can't reach the very top of some shelves. That's unfair, I guess.
That's
Somebody's
unfair as
6'8",
well.
but it just is.
But then you go to the next thing, which is there is something about the relationship you gave people with you, made them root for you, and therefore took out the difference.
Yeah.
And I think also, I was talking to Orville Peck about this, and he said something to me
Where
that
did he grow up? Did he say?
He grew up in South Africa, and then moved to Canada when he was 14 to Vancouver. Wow. And it's a funny story. We met when he was 15 years old. He must have only been in Vancouver for a year, and he was playing in a punk band with his best friend. And they were sitting on a bench in Vancouver, and I was there making a record, 2005, 2006. And we were making Good Morning Revival, and it would have been 2005. And I had gotten dental surgery. I had a root canal. I had terrible dental problems in the early part of my career because my I didn't have great dental care when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Lots of problems, hereditary, all of it.
Bless.
So I had gotten a root canal and I couldn't eat anything solid. And I had just been through a painful 3-day dental emergency. And I finally had gotten this root canal, and I was sitting on a bench, probably maybe on some Vicodin or something, God only knows. But I was eating a blueberry muffin because it was the softest thing I could find. And I was starving because I couldn't eat for 3 days because my teeth and the root canal, all that. So I meet these two kids that were these little punk kids, and they sit down and talk to me for a half hour. And
you remember this?
I do remember this, and I never thought about it again. And then I met Orville, and I was a huge fan. Early stage of his the latest chapter of the Orville Peck story. Maybe 5 years ago, we meet, and he says, "You're not going to remember this, but I met you when I was 14 or 15 in Vancouver. outside of a coffee shop. You were eating a blueberry muffin. I was sitting on a bench eating a blueberry muffin. I had just had dental surgery.
That is amazing.
And it's so strange how I remember that. Anyways,
That's so sweet.
I love Orville. He's such a great guy, such a great artist, such an icon. But he said to me, every first experience around love is shameful.
Yeah.
So every first anything that you got to have where you had a crush on that girl and she smiled at you.
Yeah.
Or you finally had the courage to tell her, how you felt, or the first kiss, or the first time you held hands, anything. He's like, all of that is just, there's shame around it. And it's some way or another, you're keeping it secret from someone, or, and I thought about it, really stuck with me. I took that home last night and it really hit me to think that any person has to go through this pain.
All these most exciting moments. And think about you go to Christmas and you see your grandparents and they're like, kissing any girls? Who are you dating? And then as you reach junior year, you keep saying, nobody, grandma, just sticking to schoolwork, whatever it is. And you're just tired of these questions and you're so scared that people are going to find out. And this has been a big motivating factor in my whole life. And I think a major reason I became a memoirist is I lived the development of my brain and my teenage years so afraid of the gotcha moment. Someone's going to find my search history, which I'm sure they did. Someone's going to find I don't even know what. They're going to find my diary. They're going to find my whatever. They're going to overhear me talking to somebody. And I was so...
Did you keep a diary?
I did, but I invented a language when I was in 8th grade, a code. I have tattoos in these letters. They're no one can read it but me. So I would journal in a language only I could read.
Wow.
Because of this.
That's crazy.
So I would just
the human brain works.
Yeah. I was I want to speak, but I'm going to speak to only myself because I'm afraid anyone will read it.
Speaking code.
Yeah. So.
Did you write about that?
No, I've never actually told anybody that. Exclusive on this podcast. So, wait, let me find what I was going to say. Searching.
So you developed this code, journaling.
Oh, I lived in such fear of the gotcha moment that someone's going to find out who I really am. And I'm going to lose all my friends. I'm going to lose my family. Everyone's gone. I was just what's so weird is the buildup to graduating high school, which I loved high school, was the buildup to D-Day, to the atomic bomb because I knew this is I don't know if Maryland was like this. I knew I was going to USC, college in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'd never been to LA, but I knew that it was the land of fruits and nuts.
Yeah.
And that if I went
we are fruity out here.
If I went to college in Tennessee, in California, and I came back next summer, fabulous and gay, all my friends in my community would think California changed me.
Right.
So I knew I had a deadline. I need to come out before I go to college so they know this is who I am and who I've been. So school is coming to an end and oh my God, I've got to tell everybody. And I just lived in this fear. And what's so wild when I think back on my sweet cherub 19-year-old self, I went into each of those conversations as a saying goodbye. You'll never talk to me again.
Oh.
And I'm moving to California to start a new life of people I don't know. It was I was so deeply convinced. And no one said, all my friends, the amount of tears I sobbed my last semester of college of joy that they didn't walk out and that they said they loved me and it was actually amazing.
Did anyone in your life say they knew?
No one said they knew. Someone said they suspected.
Okay.
I mean, quite a few said they suspected. Others said they had no idea. Because
I had no idea when I met you.
I am shut up. I am very I was very wacky and whatever. And
right. You are a comedian in some parts, but actually you say that, but you're deep. So even when you joke, you really you're one of the friends that I can talk about anything with, and we can get on any subject, and you share real. It's poetic a lot of times and stuff. You and Cleo, it's interesting. I love talking to you guys and your writers, and I don't know if that's a characteristic of a lot of writers. I've only known a few writers, maybe. I mean, I guess I've known more than a couple writers, but when I think about someone who this is what I do, I write. Right? You write books. such a lost art form. You can only do one
Yeah. It takes
over a long
time.
period of time. It's such a, you're not doing, people don't write books for the fame and the money. If that comes, it's as a byproduct of success, great. You guys are acclimated to the world a different way, and you organize your thoughts and you put them down, and you share your lens in it's a lost art form, in my opinion. So when we talk, I do find similar qualities of like how you guys listen and the way you respond. And when you respond, it's poetic in its own way. It's interesting.
Thank you.
But you can talk about anything. You're one of my friends that I could bring up. I could say how I feel about something. You don't get offended. I don't think I'm an offensive person, but like I don't always agree with everyone out here in California.
Yeah. Well, we come from a similar background, and B, I would be curious to talk to Cleo about this.
She's from the South too.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Louisiana, right?
NOLA.
Yeah. And I think that I became a very curious person in that era of like, I almost credit being gay with this, because when you wake up into a world that wasn't made for you,
right,
and you look around and you're like, oh damn, like when he holds hands with her, everyone is stoked. Like, this is interesting. That doesn't work for me. And so whatever it was, my coping mechanism was, in that moment, I developed this like satellite camera above my own life, where I'm like 30,000 foot view of everything. How do things work? How do people behave? Why do they do that? What is the motivation there? Why are they interested in that and not this? So I became this just like obsessive student of everything, because if I was Johnny High School, whatever, and everything happened just perfectly for me, not that that happens for anybody, but that's...
We see it from our perspective, though. When you've been an outcast in some way, you look at someone else's life and it looks perfect to you.
Yeah, and of course it's not. But I would say there's certain things that I bet you they've never really thought about, because why would they? It's just like A plus B equals C. So it just turned me into a student of life. And you are a very curious person as well. And have you ever like diagnosed yourself why you think it's your nature, or you think it's your nurture?
Why I'm so curious,
inquisitive, and like,
I think I grew up in a very constricted, rigid style of parenting. My mom was very religious, and I think she was worried about all of us, and I really do think it came from a place of love. So I'm not mad at her at all. In fact, I think it gave me a lot of great qualities that that sustained me. So like I really do think that the religion that I kept a lot of in my life, but I refuse to conform, right? And so I realized that I'm a nonconformist.
And you learned that from feeling constricted as a kid.
And I also learned that I still hold the values. So I'm a value-driven person, but I do not believe in perfection, and I do not believe that if you go and you open anyone's closet up and dig through all their shit, you're going to find something that you could take out into the world and parade around and embarrass them. And like, if you think that anyone out there doesn't have some shit that they had to work through or mistakes they made, but I think I chose a career that had no rules. So I chose a career that I didn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, people don't expect you to be perfect.
It's actually boring to be perfect. It's cool to be wild.
It's cool to have fucking problems in that.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is they're real problems and you need to work through them.
Yeah.
And so if you have a problem with drugs or alcohol, or you have a problem with yourself, you have a self-esteem problem, or you have trauma, you still have to work. You still have to deal with it. Doesn't matter if you chose to be like a rock and roller.
Yeah.
And to everyone else, it might be cool that you're in pain. But at some point, you have to excavate all that stuff and deal with that pain, or you're going to end up dead because you're going to be medicating it with something that likely kills you.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I'm taking over.
Yeah, please.
The experience of your life and the career that you're in, I find, like, both you and your wife to be the best parents, the best communicators with each other, the best friends. And I'm not saying you're perfect, but I just see an incredible functionality with your life. It's just very beautiful to witness. But I wouldn't guess that from your line of work, of what you just said, of like being a wild child is part of the brand, which is actually, those are real problems. And then those spin up and all of a sudden you're 40, 50, 60, and you're like still upside down in a ditch. Like, I don't, like, how do you find that making it out the other side of your career into a true adulthood and a family man is difficult, rare, or actually a lot of your peers have grown up as well?
A lot of the people that I spend time with and our friends, I find to be really good parents, really loving parents. And I think it's values. So I think we share values, but also like we believe in privacy. So we do have problems, and we have dealt with problems, and we have dealt, but we believe in privacy. So everyone deserves to have privacy. I'm not going to hold something against someone if they went in a private room and screamed whatever terrible thing they wanted to say. You know, if you think of like, what is Tourette's, right? They can't control, right? And so it's interesting because if you think about that, you cannot hold it against someone if they thought something or they had an urge, right? What we hold against people is, did they control the urge, right? So I'm not going to hold it against someone for making a mistake if they correct it. But I also believe they should have the privacy to deal with it. And so I think we share values. We believe in our ability to kind of have the privacy to work through our problems together, individually and collectively, right? And we know that we believe in one another more than any one, like maybe difference we might have or a mistake we may have made or what learning we have to do. There's a learning curve too with all of this. So that we don't account for. So someone gets famous and then suddenly they're supposed to be able to handle it. Instead of all of us going like, whoa, there's a big learning curve there. That those first couple of years might be a little embarrassing or thoughtless or all the things, right? So I think like we're always going to try and project positive things into the world and represent our family with thoughtful, classy way. Because I think everyone should. You're representing like your name. You should try to represent it the best you can. But then also in relationship to everyone else, I think me personally, I just have respect for them. So the benefit of the doubt is that I'm going to be respectful towards you and your opinions, your views, because I believe in that. And I think I appreciate coming from the opposite side of the spectrum and going and landing in a place that's the opposite of where I grew up. I love this place. I love the people. I love the opportunities it's afforded me. And it gave me a wife and 2 kids. And so I'm forever grateful for California and Los Angeles in particular, because I met my wife here and I've raised my kids here and it's been really good to me. I may not fully agree sometimes with some of the stuff, but I accept it and I participate. And I'm not on a mission to force anyone to feel the way I feel or think the way I think, because I accept that it's good to be different from each other.
Have you heard of order, disorder, reorder? Have you heard this?
No, but I want to hear about it.
Profound. So these are the stages of enlightenment.
Okay.
And so it involves parenting. And
feels like you might explode my brain.
It's really nice.
Okay.
So order. So when you're a young child, life is way more complicated than you can fathom.
Right.
And so you don't need to know the why of everything, because it doesn't, like mom says, don't touch the stove, don't put your head in the microwave, whatever. You don't need to understand whatever. You can explain some things, but sometimes a rule is a rule. Don't do that.
And you accept it.
Yeah. That what you're doing is you're creating an order, because the world, being a human, discovering that you can walk and you got to be potty trained is so overwhelming that you need the adults to give you a structure to make the world make sense. This is order. Then, and so Father Richard Rohr, who taught me this, he says order is basically everything needs a hard and fast rule. And that's kind of where conservatives stay. They're comfortable in that. They like when the world makes perfect sense.
Right.
The next stage is disorder, where you realize, well, I know that's a rule, but we don't have to do it. Like, I know you said don't do drugs, but like magic mushrooms are amazing. Like, I really met God. So what now? So there's and that's like the stage of deconstruction. So you take
Disorder.
You like take apart all these rules, and sometimes it's very painful to the person who gave you that order. They told you that Jesus died for your sins and this is how it is, and if you don't do it, you go to hell. And you go, I don't know. Like, I was reading this other book, and they're like, don't read that book. It's like, that is disorder and deconstruction. And sometimes, and the progressives can get stuck there where you're taking everything apart.
Right.
And you get stuck there and you're just dissing everything. And then the true stage of enlightenment is reorder, where you take the bathwater out and keep the baby, and you realize everything has a place, everything has a role. You're not mad at anybody. You don't think everything is right, but you're at peace with the world because you're at peace with what is. And you just want it to, you're at peace with yourself because you're no longer in order and you're afraid of chaos, and you're no longer in disorder and you're raging against the machine. You're at reorder. And these are the stages. And I think about that so much in terms of my very religious childhood. I mean, I wanted to be, there's a thing in male queer world called best boy syndrome.
What is that?
Which is when you realize that you're gay and you're in trouble for existing, you subconsciously say, how do I survive? And so you become the best. You become valedictorian. You become this. And you see like a lot of gay men are like making tons of money.
Really successful,
like,
yeah.
And that is like a thing where they're like, you don't think I'm good? I'll prove to you I'm better.
Best dressed, best
I'm the
spoken,
best boy.
yeah, that's it. That makes a lot of sense.
And so I had a lot of that best boy syndrome. But you're like discovering that a lot of these things are reactions to the thing that came before. And ultimately, the goal, as I deconstructed my faith and tried to be the perfect Christian, my best boy, I knew the Bible better than anybody. I was like, I didn't have my first kiss till I was 28. I didn't have sex till I was 30.
Wow.
Because I was like, oh, I'm the best boy. And I'm waiting for God, truly waiting for God to bring a woman into my life that I'm attracted to. I was like, I haven't met every woman. Like maybe I'm in love with somebody that lives in the Amazon. I don't know. I just have to go there. So it took me a long time to stop that best boy.
Oh my God.
Thing.
Dude.
Yeah.
Is there any part of you that mourns for the years you felt maybe you lost to that?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, and I mourn and I'm mad, and I don't wish that upon the next generation, which is why I rage against the machine and write the books that I do. Because I really write these books for my 22-year-old self.
Right. Letters to yourself.
Yeah, I wish he had this book to read. But what is so interesting is I was spending that time investing in my friendships, in my life. I wasn't like having my heart broken. You know, I wasn't like writing Taylor Swift lyrics with my life. I was just having the best time with my friends and pursuing career and learning what I'm good at. And I will tell you, when I had my first kiss at 28, I wasn't a bag of teenage chemicals. I was a man who knew who he was.
Right.
And that kiss, there's a saying, the longer the waiting, the sweeter the kiss.
Yeah.
That kiss was so insane.
Yeah.
It was so insane. I like can teleport there. It was the day.
Probably better than my first kiss.
Yeah. It was the day that the United States killed Osama bin Laden, which is very random.
Wow.
But
so you had a bin Laden
yeah,
kiss.
I know. I was the universe demands balance. But
so sweet.
Blah, blah, blah. All that to say, I mourn, but I also have had the most amazing life. And it's really hard to say if I took out this ingredient, would the meal be as good? Yeah,
right.
I don't know.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know. So I've spent my 30s being a wild.
It's funny because
dog.
the person that I know, right, that the Jed that I'm friends with is so fun and in the group. I would have imagined you'd had tons of relationships, and you know, it's crazy.
Well, I've had,
and now I'm sure you have had tons of relationships, and
yeah, I've had a few. They've been great, but I do feel romantically delayed.
Right.
Like I feel romantically about 28.
Right.
Even though I'm 40. And so that which is fine.
Probably why you look so young.
I also sleep 14 hours a day. Just kidding.
I was going to ask you about that, about why you write. Like, what's the motivation behind, why write a book? And I always wonder with artists, who the hell told you? Who the hell told you you could do this?
Yeah.
Right? Think about that first moment where you're like, I'm going to write a book, right?
Yeah.
Who the hell do you think you are? Right?
So real.
When you think about that, who told me I could be in a band? Who the hell do I think I am that I could write some songs, and who cares, right? That's a real moment for all of us. And I think, and for people listening, to this, a lot of people that listen are trying to be artists, trying to be musicians, building businesses, or trying to be healthier. They're all trying to organize their lives more, not less. They're trying to be more themselves, not less. They're trying to be more of something they want to be, not less. So I tend to choose guests based on my own inspiration by them, because I think the people listening get a lot out of the people that come here that have accomplished things. You're an accomplished writer, and you're accomplished in your life. I mean, and just sitting here in this first, half of this conversation, everyone listening can hear the journey of this person has not been easy, right? And then to think, okay, and now throw in the idea that they're going to be a writer. They didn't choose to be a doctor, a lawyer. There's a clear path for if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a doctor. Not an easy path, but it's clear. I'm going to be an artist.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to monetize it and make a life out of it and build a life that I can live inside of. And that's sustainable. Virtually impossible by
and even embarrassing to even admit you want to do.
Embarrassing to admit you want to do, especially at a young age.
Who am I? Yeah.
And even more embarrassing at an older age.
Yeah.
Right? So anyone out there that's listening that has dreamed of being a writer but hasn't been, but let's say they're 37.
Yeah.
They're not 21.
Yeah.
When you hear a 21-year-old say, I want to be a painter, I want to be a writer, you go, good luck, kid.
Yeah. Good luck, kid. Now here's the things you should go do.
And you go, they might make it.
Yeah.
At 37, you go, Did you
my business is a little different than yours because my business is an old man's business.
You get better over time.
Yeah, if I see a book and it's written by a 21-year-old, I'm like,
nope.
What the hell do you know?
Yeah.
What is this, a coloring book? And then, but then if they're 47 or what, even authors that I love, right, I'll look at their opus and I'm like, oh, they wrote this when they were 25.
Right.
I'm going to start with the one they wrote when they're 37 because they lived a little more. There's more in there.
Who's your icon?
I love Cormac McCarthy. I love John Steinbeck. I love James Baldwin. I love Mary Oliver. I love Wendell Berry. Well, so can I answer the question of whatever?
Who told you could do it? And if you told yourself, what was the moment and why do you write?
Why do I write is because I lived my childhood with the fear of gotcha.
In that box.
And I was so afraid of getting got that I said, when I became a writer, I go, I'm going to tell everyone everything. Because if I am completely open and I have no secrets, and then people still choose to be in relationship with me, that's the dream I never knew I could dream. That was the thing I didn't think was possible, because if people really know who you are, they won't like you. That was the foundation of my beliefs.
Right.
And so to be radically vulnerable and open and have people choose to be in my life is the dream I never knew I could dream. So that is why I write and why I write what I write. Who told me I could write? I definitely was like, all my heroes are writers. The thing that told me to write was my fear of regretting my life. I knew I wanted to write a book.
Yeah.
And I was in my late 20s. And I was working in the nonprofit world. I was working in other people's things. And I was approaching 30, and I think this happens to a lot of people. As you approach 30, you think, oh, I don't know who I am and what I'm doing. And a 30-year-old is an adult. It's not cute to be like, I don't know where, it's like, do something. And yet you're young enough to try something and then do something else, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm going to write a book when I turn 30. And I might be bad at it and I'll self-publish it. Who cares? I just want to know that I did it. Because then if I go back to the nonprofit world or I become a lawyer or whatever it is, at least when I'm 60, I can be like, well, at least I know I'm not a good writer. I tried that. Versus being in a job I don't like and being like, I was so chicken shit. I never tried it. And why not? And now I'm old and whatever. So it was my fear of regret and my willingness to be like, life is lived in seasons. I can try something and fuck up and then just do something else. I very much was okay with trying things, but I just didn't want to regret my life. And then a friend told me, he said, don't just ask, what do I love? Listen to what loves you back. And that was really big for me because, and I use this anecdote where...
That's great. I've never heard that. That's great.
We always watch American Idol, The Voice, these shows where you see the worst audition you've ever seen. This person's like, I've always dreamt of being a singer. And it's like,
well, it doesn't
a rabbit
dream
running
of you.
over. Yeah, it's like the worst sound you've ever heard. And so it's like, it doesn't matter if you love singing. That is not your future. So pay attention to what you do loves you back. And for me, I would be in meetings at the nonprofit, or I would write little like blogs on Blogspot or whatever and post it on my Facebook. And it would get passed around. Like I would write something about my thoughts on modern Christianity or something. And a friend of someone I don't know would then message me and be like, this really helped me. Thank you. A stranger. And I was like, it's not just my friends patting me on the back saying, good job, buddy.
Right.
It was a stranger. There's something that Seth Godin said, which I think about a lot, which is, if you're wondering if you can make money on your art or your endeavor, the thing has to get up and walk out of the room without you.
Right.
Like if you are playing an open mic and the entire audience is your friends, and then you've been doing it for 5 years and it's only ever your friends in the room,
you'll never know.
That doesn't mean you're a good singer. It means you're a good friend.
Right.
If it starts with your friends and then all of a sudden it's friends and their friends, and all of a sudden it's the friends of the friends and you don't even know the back half of the room, you're onto something, because the art itself, rather than relationship to you, has legs.
It's a really creative way of saying what we always say, which is the market will tell you.
Yeah.
Right? You take it to market, the market doesn't lie. It will tell you. You know, if you put out something digitally, the impressions don't lie. When they start to grow, you can see growth. But I like the way you put it because it's real.
The art has to be completely...
It's sticky.
On its own without someone knowing who you are or knowing you personally.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important for people to know, because if you're wondering, should I try this? Always try it, do it, and put it out there. And then just see if over the course of time, does it start to grow legs?
Well, it's like a chef making food and letting people try it. They go, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yeah, if it's your like mom going.
But if it's your friend or your mom, you're like, oh,
I love
this is
it.
all pretty good. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll have another. Do you want more?
I love you,
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Very that. But that imposter syndrome, that fear of embarrassing yourself by trying something that your idols do, is really a barrier. And I actually fucking love California, and I love the United States for fostering a culture of you can do it, you can try it. Because
Me too.
A lot of other countries, they have that tall poppy syndrome that if you grow too tall, they cut you down and they say, who do you think you are? You think you're better than us?
Yeah.
You're going to move to that big city and leave us back here? Who do you think you are? And like, not only is there the internal embarrassment or fear, but it's the community actually does hold you down.
Yeah.
Because they're indicted by your ambition. So I love that you moved to LA and like everyone's trying to do things and they have this big dream and you're like, cool, how can I help? That's amazing.
How do you and your mom relate now around these things? Because it feels like you're not. Do you edit your thoughts, words, or do you guys just have an understanding that you're going to have these conversations and you'll disagree? And
yeah, I used to edit more,
right?
Because I'm like, part of the reason my mom and I are so close. I mean,
you guys are close.
Very. We love each other. Love. But
will she listen to this?
Luckily I'm doing quite a few podcasts, so she is obsessed with me. She's my mother, so she probably will.
Super proud of you.
And yes, but it's so fun. And she loves attention, but sometimes this is complex attention. So I'm curious how much she'll be able to handle. I think she loves it all. But so much of the impetus of this book was the fact that we do have such deep, painful divisions. And I mean, thinking about it from her perspective, her one goal to raise children was to raise them to fear God and follow Jesus. That was her number one goal.
Same.
And to see me running buck wild in LA and West Hollywood, she's like, this is my worst case scenario.
This is the opposite. This is it. So I would say I actually think we're similar in that, and this is why Nicole always says it. I love my mom. We get along. Great. Certainly have had our complications, and we continue to work through them. I really do feel like in the deepest part of me that she looks at my life and my choices, and she does think that I likely am going to go to hell because I don't make Christian music. I don't even know what that means, to be honest with you, because I make art.
Yeah.
So anyone that listens to my songs, you have to preface it with saying, I created this in a moment, and this was a thought I had, and this was an idea that I put down into paper, writing, music that I needed to express. Anything deeper than that is for me. Whatever I was working out. So you cannot judge my music and any message in it fully, because you'll never know the personal side of it and what I needed to express and why. And so who's to say it isn't religious? Who's to say it isn't directly to God? Who's to say it isn't, it doesn't, but to me, it's like, you don't get to force me to tell you my private thought. That's not for you. And we have lost a little bit of that in the world today. Like there's no privacy. We're not allowed to have a private thought.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to share something and go, I don't want to tell you what this means to me. And you may say, oh, lifestyles of the rich and famous means this. And I may just go, sure.
Yeah.
Whatever you think.
I love that.
And more cases than not, I'll have a song that I refused to share where I was, what I was thinking, what I was trying to say, and why I felt I needed to share that. I don't care if people judge it or whatever. So there is a part of me that feels like I've deeply disappointed my mom because I didn't choose a religious feeling. I also believe that words can be bullshit, and we can go out into the world and sell that we're this person that we're not. And I don't want to do that either. So how many different religious leaders have failed morally?
Oh.
And I don't even judge them. It's the religious people who are disappointed in their action. I'm just like, yeah, you're a human being and you made a mistake. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying like, yeah, I'm not surprised that you made a mistake that 100 other people have made or whatever, because it's human. It's the human side that we all have, right? But at the end of the day, like there is a part of me that feels like because I didn't choose an outwardly religious persona to be.
Well, imagine how claustrophobic it must be to be a Christian artist with a brain. And what I mean by that is your entire, and God forbid you're successful, your success is predicated on your assent to this set of beliefs. If you wave from that belief, you could lose your job and your fans. They will smell it and they will come for you. And there'll be blogs written about how you're a traitor and that you've been deceived by fame in Hollywood. And so you cannot think, you cannot doubt, you cannot move in any direction. Like a true artist, the point of art is a authentic expression of an internal experience that's been visualized or turned into sound. And if it is, you cannot be authentic unless you stay in line with, and that is so claustrophobic.
And I don't even judge them. If that's your choice, if that's the life you want to live, go for it.
Yeah.
If you want to go around and sell this idea, I'm not saying you're selling a bad idea. So that's where I differ from everyone over here, where they're like, yeah, F the Christians. And I'm like, no, actually, I'm actually like sitting between both of you saying, stop.
Yeah.
Like, you stop looking at them like you have any say in what they're choosing to do. Why don't you just let them go and be happy and then actually become a real person that knows who they are, and vice versa. I'm not even judging you. If you want to be a super church pastor and you get to the top of your game, I respect it. I'm actually like looking at guys going, good, dude, you did really well.
Yeah.
You've just gone to the top of your game.
Yeah, look at your congregation. They like look forward to this every Sunday, and there's 20,000 people in there.
And when you start thinking that you personally are saving souls, that's where I get a little bit of a problem. When you go, like, we as a church have saved this many souls. No, you didn't.
Well, also, both sides do that. I know, like, die-hard
Deconverters.
political activists who are like, they are exactly as evangelical and scary in their beliefs as Liberty University is to me.
And I don't know which of those people maybe like rub me the wrong way more, but at the end of the day, like I try not to like, I tend to gravitate towards things I like, not things I don't like.
Yeah.
So like I kind of like move
That's
through it.
That's a beautiful way to live.
It comes natural when you get up every day and you start. It wasn't always the case. So I think for early stages of my life, I felt like I was fighting everyone.
Yeah.
So I was angry. And that's why I look back on my old art and I go like with a lot of affection, because I go, man, you were so hurt.
Yeah.
You felt so misunderstood. You felt like a black sheep. You had a low self-esteem. You were confused about the fear you felt of like all the religious undertones and overtones in your life that like were scaring you from just being, that's the thing. So now take that idea and then imagine you're gay.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I think about when I think about the pain and suffering that someone has to go through.
That's what I see when I see Folsom Street Fair in San Francisco and like wild gay, like thong ass out parades, because I'm like, your sexuality was so coiled like a spring and ground into you, and you were taught to be so ashamed of holding hands with another boy. And finally you reach adulthood and you fucking explode out in every direction. And that's why it's called a pride parade. It's the opposite of shame.
That is what people need to understand.
Yeah.
They need to understand why.
The cause.
Because and I'll tell you this, if I hadn't had the experience of all my friends sharing with me about their experience, and I may not understand.
I used to say, I won't be like, I'm going to go to California, but I'm not going to be like those gays,
right?
Those pride parade gays.
But they're so fun.
Like normal. But because I didn't understand what that meant and the cause of it. The same. So I completely understand.
It's an expression.
There's an amazing, this happened back in 2014, but it's one of these articles that's so stuck in my mind, written by Nicholas Kristof, who's the opinion writer for the New York Times. He was talking about why did gay rights change so quickly from like when you would poll Americans in the early 80s,
right? Like
80% are against gay marriage. And by like 2005, 2010, it's like way flipped. And now the Supreme Court is legalizing gay marriage. Whereas like the experience of black Americans has been so
it's taken way longer.
Much time.
Right.
And
do you think it's because it's, I don't want to say it's a white issue, but it feels a lot whiter than...
Well, so this goes back to the elements of empathy.
Right.
Nicholas Kristof says that it's a lot of stats, and I'm just guessing from my memory, but he said that 75% of Americans have a gay family member or a close gay friend. Like, and mostly gay family member.
So
like
they can relate to it.
So you are forced in relation, closeness in time, or closeness in space, time, and likeness to self. Your family member is gay.
Right.
And so that is a level of empathy where there was some crazy number, like 4 out of 5 white Americans do not know one black person.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that true?
They know somebody from at work, they know one, and they're like, I know a black guy. You know, like that's what they say, but they don't have a real...
That's crazy.
It's like a crazy number.
That's
hard
to
black
imagine.
Experience is theoretical to them. They live on the other side of town. They do not look like you as a white American. And so the empathy experience is delayed by centuries. Whereas the gay experience, once that story comes out, and
well, even if you only knew, think about this, if as a white person, you only knew 5 black people, right? Or people of color.
Right.
But then think about that. Just you telling me that stat, whatever it is, and I'm sure we could find where that's from. Like, you never think about that. But then when you say it, you go, holy shit.
I grew up like that. There was not one black kid in my school. There was one Japanese kid. Everyone else was white. And I was actually shook when I moved to California because
Maryland is different than that.
Yeah, well, your proximity to DC, and
Very
guess what?
diverse
Like
state.
Nashville, there are black people in Nashville. It's a very segregated place.
Right.
It's much better now.
Right.
But when I was growing up, the people that work at McDonald's, the people that cut your grass, and the people that clean your house are the same race as you. Always. Like, everyone was white. And I moved to California, and I was so taken aback by, you could almost tell people's jobs. Like, if there was someone working in the yard, you knew that they didn't live in that house. That was very shocking to me moving here about how segregated it is, but diverse.
Right.
It was wild. I think the reason that the gay experience changed so much in my lifetime was that idea of they got confidence to speak, there was representation in the media, and there was likeness to self with gay family members that finally came out and they're like, I am gay, and I'm your cousin or I'm your brother.
And back to why you write, do you feel like you write to represent that experience?
Yeah,
or at least in part.
Encourage somebody, especially somebody that comes from a religious conservative background or that has a family member like this. Because the crux of this book is a lot of people are no longer in relationship with their mom or their dad or their siblings. And I want to interrogate that and say, sometimes boundaries are important and sometimes you shouldn't be in relationship. But I think a lot of people are sacrificing a valuable relationship to stand in their righteousness. And I, like you, I'm just not like that. I would rather have a complicated, limping love for my mother than none at all.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I still hold her in this place where she's my mother.
Yeah.
So she gave me life.
Yeah.
And she sacrificed for me, and she may not fully agree with all my decisions. She may question my faith. She may be terrified of how I'm raising my kids, but I know she loves me. I never question that. I know she loves me. There's no doubt in my mind. I know in her, in all that she is, I know she loves me, and I accept that. And I also don't resent her for her differences from me.
Yeah. Yes.
I just
don't
accept them. I think the piece I made was I'm not going to do something hoping for a different result.
You know what's interesting is I'm realizing I've always thought my mom's lack of acceptance or endorsement of my life was predicated on my sexuality. But I think my mom would be just like your mom, where you're straight with a wife and kids.
That's
and
what
she's still not happy because you're not making the right music or you're not doing the right thing. It's
because they're looking for the first flaw and they stop at the flaw.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
if it's not my sexuality, okay, next.
Yeah.
Is it the language I use? Okay. Is it where I live? Absolutely. Is it where I live? You think she wants me to live in Hollywood? And that's the other thing is I go home to where I'm from and I'm like, those people, anyone where they group everyone together and out there in Hollywood, and you're like, nah, actually guys, you're wrong.
I know.
And
the amount of questions I get of are you scared?
Everyone would love you. You'd be the favorite aunt or you'd be the favorite cousin. If any family ever comes here from out of town, everyone here is celebrating them. Someone reading Mother Nature and you could decide the takeaway. And these are the two people. One, and I'm only summing them up in character. I don't know that I could completely label any person and give you a complete picture of who they really are. But let's just say a super conservative, religious person from a conservative place who's never had a relationship with, in fact, they haven't even established how they really feel, and they don't have a relationship with someone who's gay or someone who's LGBTQ plus. And forgive me, I'm not very articulate around a lot of this stuff. and
You're nailing it.
I just I'm always careful because I never want to hurt anyone's feelings, right? But at the end of the day, like, this is a person who's from a super conservative place. They themselves are conservative, and they've never really established their relationship with, or a relationship in a real way with anyone, let's say like you,
Yeah.
right? Or someone you relate to. If you could decide what they take away, what would that be?
I think the reason to read anything is to step inside the experience of someone else. That's what's so cool about language and about reading, is that you can privately like go into another world. I mean, that's what I love about a hardcover book, is you can take the jacket off and no one even knows what you're reading. You could be a scared gay kid or whoever and read this, or a proud conservative that wouldn't be caught dead reading this book or whatever, because maybe whatever. And you could read it, nobody knows.
Yeah. They're like, what are you reading? And they're like, how to win friends and influence people.
Yeah. But I would say, I hope that I come across in this book in a way that person would be like, huh, this guy's pretty cool. Like, I think I would like him in person. And that, just to like establish that, and then to see my mom, because I think about what the question I thought you were going to ask is, a conservative parent who does not have a relationship with their queer son or their whatever. Right. And I would be
okay, let's say that.
And I would be like, I hope that parent sees that my mom does not betray her convictions.
She hasn't compromised.
Yeah, she doesn't kowtow to like my bullying or whatever it is. She stands in her faith and her beliefs and loves me so well. And by standing in her beliefs, that is her loving me. Because she believes she believes with 100% conviction that is the actual reality of the universe. That narrative is exactly what the universe is. And so she's trying to save me from a coming forest fire. That is exactly what she believes. And so it is love. And yet she always says this. She goes, I hold my kids with an open hand. And it's like, if they want to fly away, the hand is still here and they can fly home whenever they want. I'm right here. And it's just the way she loves me and stands in her beliefs, I would hope that a conservative parent would be like, wow, like, I really am so hard on my child and it's driven them away. And like, I didn't love them like this. Maybe I could be softer with them.
Maybe I could reimagine what our relationship actually is.
Yeah. Cause in my mind, I thought I had to agree with them or not.
Now, in the same light, what do you hope the person who on the other side of that is saying, well, fuck that?
Yeah.
Right? The person that maybe they're hurt, maybe they're angry, maybe their experience has been really, there hasn't been a lot of grace, there hasn't been a lot of empathy, there hasn't been a lot of effort, right? What do you say to the person that's reading that book that is saying, you know what, fuck that.
Yeah.
No tolerance for that.
Reading other people's stories is why I love memoir. I love learning about someone's real life.
Yeah, it's honest.
Is that you just get to see that there are other ways of living. There are other human experiences that are not exactly yours. And people can behave better, they can behave worse. And that there's a recipe in here, perhaps, by just all of reality is a recipe, is a metaphor, that I could have rejected my mom in outrage, and I could have stood in my, fallen in line with so many other people and kicked her out of here, and just be like, fuck you, you do not accept me as I am. But my mother's kindness and she's fun and she's bright. And I'm fun and I'm bright, and I value that relationship at the expense of total agreement. And if you have a belligerent, righteous, religious parent that doesn't want to talk to you and you don't want to talk to them, and there is no affection, there is no kindness, there is no love, there are times where strong boundaries and like walls, I would say closed doors, unlocked closed doors have a value because like you have to protect your own peace and build a community around you as best you can of people that really do love you unconditionally.
And there are people that do damage.
Yes.
There are people that do damage.
But I say the only thing you can do is make yourself proud.
Right.
Like if you have parents that are, someone asked me this the other day, that what if you have religious parents that have rejected you because of your sexuality and they've like, don't talk to you anymore. I was like, you cannot control them, but you can make yourself proud. You can send them flowers on their birthday. You can send them Christmas cards. You can tell them you love them. You can, and I was like, you can poison their righteousness with your loving kindness. You can just love them, love them, love them. And if they never change their mind, you'll die proud of yourself.
Right. Wouldn't you say though that like the motivation behind that has to be one that's like, I mean this?
Yeah.
Versus
No, it's not
like,
a trick.
More versus like, fuck you.
Yeah, no. It can't be a trick because
Right.
that's not sincere.
Right.
You just have to like, and that's where it's seeking understanding of why people believe what they believe, which is so clearly what you do, is like, it's so helpful because it defangs their beliefs.
Right.
Because you see why they are the way they are, and it couldn't be otherwise. And it just gives you this like, it just gives you a calmness to approach the world.
I said this before here, and I always say it again and again and again because maybe I'm reminding myself. But the thing that I thought was my worst experience, and that I think is my biggest weakness, is time and time again I'm reminded that it is my greatest strength.
Wow.
And like when I was a kid, my dad left, right? And it's a famous story. I wrote about it in songs and stuff. We had a very complicated relationship, and we actually ended up with a really nice relationship in my later in life. And there was a lot of healing and some healing that never happened, right? Like but what it did to me at a young age when he left and the rejection I felt, and the pain that I felt in that, it was a injury that I still think I have work to do on. It's allowed me to be able to when a door closes, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
I don't feel pain. If someone comes to me and says, we're done.
Yeah.
I've gotten to a place where I'm not angry. I'm like, okay, you know what? I want you to be happy. Go live your life.
Yeah.
Not to say that happens a lot to me, but I think the abandonment got me to a place where like, I don't know that someone could hurt me from abandoning me, except I think my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they could hurt me.
I think they could
by
too.
not being in my life. And that is why as a parent, there is very few things they could do on this earth, personal choices that I wouldn't accept.
Which is why when parents do it, it is so
It's crazy.
painful.
I think if they were hurting themselves,
Right.
I would.
That's what my mom thinks I'm doing.
Right. And then that's the difference is that's actually why you understand it, I think, because in her mind, right, she likely thinks that you're on some kind of drug.
Yeah.
Like that is I do think that is how extremely religious people look at when someone's gay. It's like they made this choice to do a drug, and that
They're in a cult.
They're in a cult, or they're in, and I do think that my mom sees, what she thinks is likely like a secular lifestyle. Where I'm like, Mama, I don't have a lifestyle. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm literally married, right? With kids, raising kids.
In the carpool lane, taking them to school.
Literally
like,
taking
what
them
do you
to school.
think I'm doing?
And I'm like, because I believe that other people should have the choice to live their lives.
Yeah.
And I'm not afraid to say it at the dinner table when everybody, if I'm within a conservative group of people and they're all like those people, and I'm like, nah, that's not true.
Yeah.
That is actually not true. There's no truth to that. And it sounds to me like you're not actually in reality on planet Earth with the rest of us living life where, maybe it's women having the right to decide what they want to do,
right.
Or maybe it's, now I do find in my experience that when I speak and share my experience, there's room for it at the table. Even if there's just like one person that's like, but whether it's just that I just don't agree, and so therefore maybe she feels like I'm living a lifestyle. My mom is sweet and loving, and I appreciate her faith. Right? I really do. But I think that as the kid, you feel like your parents don't approve, and so we go back to like, and I'm a straight white guy.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that was a big aha moment in this conversation. There's a thing that I talk about in here, which is every child wants to be loved by their parent, liked, and approved of. And those are you could have two of the three.
And it's celebrated.
Yeah.
Celebrated.
And like I think that my mom loves me and my mom likes me.
Yeah.
Both. And I know parents who love their child and they do not like their child.
Yeah.
They're like, my child sucks.
I think my mom likes me, and she always says you're a good dad. She always says like you're such a good dad. So
Yeah.
that's nice to hear.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But there's like an approval and a celebration aspect of it that is like, I don't have that from my mom. But she celebrates me in many ways. But there's this like key way. But it's like that's the never-ending game of you're never going to be enough. You're never going to be this. And it's like, for me and my mom and this relationship and my one and only life, this is the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Which is we love each other. We go on road trips. We laugh. We watch true crime documentaries. And she cooks me food. And it's great. And she may never approve of my sexuality. And I might go to hell.
But you know what? Definitely not her business.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And that is partly like where I go with all that with people's sexuality is like I go back to privacy. Like that's not what the fuck do I care?
Right. But that's a mom. I mean, the thing is, it's not just who I'm banging, it's who I'm bringing home for Christmas. It's who I'm starting a family with.
Who are you going to spend the rest of your life
That is her
with?
business.
Right.
I want it to be her business.
Yeah, you want her to celebrate.
Yeah, exactly.
You want her to celebrate. Who's your best friend? I know a lot of your friends. Who's the standout best friend?
This is not a cop-out, but I will answer the question. But I feel like I look at friendship like a bunch of keys for like a huge mansion where all the doors are locked, and it's like
Bunch of different rooms.
like Nicole has a key to certain rooms, and she has like a janitor key. She can get into a lot of rooms.
Like, yeah, skeleton key.
But then some people have keys to other rooms, and in the moment when I need you, this friend in this moment is so crucial to me, and where Nicole couldn't do that for me.
Right.
So like, I very much believe that like each person is such a unique combination of. I remember reading this thing about C.S. Lewis wrote about one of his best friends who died, and he said, when someone dies, he was like, I think it was when someone dies, 3 people die. The person dies, who they were unlocked only in your presence, and the you that was unlocked only in their presence dies. Because it's so true. Like the me that I am in front of certain friends is such a unique me that I love. I love what they unlock in me. And so anyway, that I have like amazing relationships. I would say really the people that I talk to the most probably in the day are Lauren Paul, your wife, and Adele Adkins. Like the most all day. And I don't talk on the phone. I'm a texter.
Yeah, on the text group.
Yeah. And I'm a side texter.
Yeah, it's a great text group.
It's all happening all the time.
Yeah,
but it's just like
it's a text group that comes to life.
Yeah.
You guys were all at the house.
Yeah.
But you guys like there's vacations that happen.
Yeah.
Like
it's just very cozy and like where you're just like talking about anything and everyone's checking in on each other and processing and sharing the gnarliest things you've ever seen and oh god, we need to delete these texts. Like it's just like very raw and real.
It's
and it's
good.
like just like leaning on each other. It's that very like thing that is so, and everybody's rooting. You're just like rooting for each other.
Yeah. You
It's
need
great.
that.
Yeah.
I think everybody needs that group. Well, congrats on the book.
Thank you, Joel.
Bestseller.
Hopefully.
Going to be a bestseller, baby. New York Times.
Here it comes.
You're a New
We'll
York
see.
Times bestselling artist.
Yeah.
How's that
author.
feel?
Well, I guess I am an artist, but
Yeah, writer, author.
It feels like nothing because
Even just having that in your bio.
I mean, no, it feels nice, but I have no idea. It's like listen to the market. It's like I have no idea why anything works. I'm just writing my true story, and that's so cool that it connects with people. But I don't know how.
I'll tell you, it's a big deal.
Cool, thank you.
So, like, when you can introduce someone and go, like, on this podcast, I can say New York Times bestselling author.
It is pretty cool.
His new book
Mother Nature.
It's a huge deal. You gotta celebrate that where you can. I think this one's going to be a bestseller too.
Well, I hope so. Thank you.
Congrats.
I love you.
Thanks for coming on. Love you too.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Artist Friendly. If you really liked it, you can follow, like, subscribe to the show anywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Amazon. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.
Bad times.